What's up everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a wonderful day. In this video, I'm gonna be working on this fantasy illustration where an ogre is attacking a knight soldier. I will share step-by-step process of how I created this artwork using some 3D elements, photo bashing and digital painting techniques. So without wasting any more time, let's do this. First of all, I set up some characters with the poses in Dash 3D and imported them in Blender. I made some adjustments with the textures, especially tweaking the reflective properties, and after that I went on to adjust the size and composition of the whole scene. When working with 3D, I usually like to experiment with the composition in the 3D software itself. This gives me a lot of flexibility in terms of camera angles. Of course, there won't be just these two people in the scene, so I also filled the environment with some basic 3D cubes to get a sense of rocks. Now, I can also import actual 3D models of rocks and place them instead, but putting these basic 3D blocks increases my speed, especially considering that most of these shapes will be replaced by photo textures later on. I also adjusted the lighting of the scene, and for that I'm gonna use a warm light source and a cooler light source. The warmer light source could be from the fire on the ground, and the cooler one could be from the moonlight. It's also one of my favorite light setups to work with and quite simple as well. Then I rendered the scene and took it to Photoshop to do my favorite part. I put a photo into the background and one on the lower ground as well. Now for this scene, I am imagining a forest type setting with large rocks. Since the initial render contained only boxes, I'll have to paint some of them to make them look more like rocks. Then I'm gonna start color matching everything, adding some more blues and magentas in the shadows. I'm doing this using adjustment layers clipped inside the main layer. To add more color to some parts, I used blending modes such as overlay, especially for the orange on the rocks. I wasn't quite happy with the sky. I had only put one photo in there, which clearly isn't working because there is not enough depth. So I'll try something different. I painted some colors in the background with a general direction for the light. Then I arranged some trees in a PNG format in the back. Then I adjusted the levels to give a sense of depth and also color balanced everything to match the scene. After making the background lighter to emphasize more on the characters, I painted some smoke in the background using the smoke brushes. Then I used a soft round brush to emphasize the light source on the top right corner. I usually do that to kind of make more sense of the rim light on the character's edges. Otherwise, the sharp rim light starts to look a bit off. This works in a lot of cases, but might not work in some, of course. Which means you don't really have to always create the soft round brush stroke in combination with the rim light. Then I painted the shadows underneath the characters to make them fit with the environment a lot better. Moving on to the rock in the foreground, and for that I just made a rock shape and inserted an image into that shape using clipping mask. I moved the image around until I feel like the image fits better with the shape. Then I adjusted the levels to make the picture darker and also fixed the color balance to make it all fit with the overall scene. You know, just the usual stuff. I was also not happy with how the ogre's shoulder armor was rendered. It's going out a bit too much, not really fitting with the ogre's arm. So I cut a part of it and adjusted it to fit better with the arm. Next, it's time to work on the characters, and I usually start that by fixing the light and shadows. I feel like the characters need more shadows, so I painted them with a soft round brush with a desaturated blue color set on multiply. Now it's time for designing the characters. I started by painting the facial hair on the ogre, then I selected a fairly neutral color from the environment, set the layers blending mode to color dodge, and painted the light on the edges of the ogre. Because I've selected a neutral color, I am able to paint that light both on the cooler areas and the warmer ones as well, and it will enhance the light on those areas. After fixing the light and shadows, it's time to jump into some photo bashing. I gathered some images on a separate Photoshop document so that I can drag and drop them into my main artwork and use them where needed. I like to use the skew and warp tool to adjust the perspective of the objects so that they can fit better. Now I'll just be putting some additional elements on this character, darken them, color match them, and paint them where necessary. Now I noticed that the values on the ogre's head is matching a bit too much with the values on the distant rock. So I want to paint some additional highlights on that rock to separate the main character from the background. And for that I use magic wand tool to select only the highlighted areas on the rock, and then painting with an overlay layer. I found some PNGs of the fire and placed them behind the character to emphasize the warmer light coming from the left. The fire had some dark edges, but thankfully setting the layers blending mode to screen usually helps get rid of the dark areas. Now I'll just be working on the finishing details, fixing light and shadows, and adding some foreground elements. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of the process. See you soon with the final result. And here's the final result. I hope you liked this video and learned something new. If you did, please don't forget to leave a thumbs up and a comment. I love reading your comments and it really keeps me motivated to make new content for you. And if you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing. Alright, I'll see you in another video. Take care.